My name is Doug Clark. I'm responsible for cloud in IBM in the UK and Ireland. So I guess from some of the conversations we were having in the panel session, the buck kind of stops with me a little bit in terms of the full portfolio of IBM stuff that we want you as MSPs, as our business partners, as our ecosystem to engage with. I really want to embrace you as that community, as that audience, and see you as part of my extended team. Or rather, I would like for the team that I have responsibility for to be part of your extended team, because as was cited in the last session, you are our frontline warriors in this new adventure that we're all involved in. Okay, so I'm here to lead a session called Driving Cloud Adoption. I think we've heard quite a bit of stuff already, which is showing that we're already on a journey. I've got a Twitter account. My Twitter hashtag is CloudStuff. So I would really ask that you follow me, ping me, send me some hate mail or stalk me or whatever you want to do. More than happy to join in any banter with you. But a couple of things I just wanted to follow on from the panel session, because there was some really interesting content came out from that. And the idea, I've got a few slides that I can share with you, but the idea is I just want to use them really to stimulate rather than to beat you over the head with more plenary content, right? So I will use them or I won't, depends on how I feel. I'm in charge. But the idea is, one of the comments that came up from the panel was the future of the ecosystem, and how is the ecosystem going to work out? Well, we don't necessarily have all of the answers, and I guess as an assembled community between us, we will lead our own destiny along with our customers. But we've got a white paper, and my offering, my commitment to you is, if you want to give me your business card, I will make sure that we send you a PDF of that white paper talking about the ecosystem and how the ecosystem we think might unfold. It might create more questions and answers, but at least it'll show you that we're thinking about it. The other point was, there was a comment, I think it was Neil from Bright Solid was talking about it in the panel session, which is really the future of the IT department. Again, we've got another white paper or thought leadership piece on the future of the IT department. It was presented recently by one of my colleagues, Mark Tomlinson at Cloud Circle. It is on YouTube if you want to actually listen to it, play it on your bring your own device. Or again, we can give it to you as a white paper and you can gen yourself up on it and maybe put your own spin, your own point of view on it. Because that's one of the benefits of cloud, is it's very much your point of view. This is your business. We want to help it be a success, right? But it's your business, and that's why we're here to support you and to help you. A couple of other items came up. One was on security. Again, we've got papers on cloud security, who do you trust, and things like that. So there's a whole load of thought leadership stuff which we can share with you, we can brief you on, we can evangelize about, we can bring you up to speed on so you can evangelize about it, because a lot of these issues are the issues that come up during conversations with our end customers, our end clients, right? So that was the little follow-on from the conversation earlier. So the whole point of this session really, and I really want it to be as interactive as possible, so please help me. We've got roving mics, but I'm going to start roving in a minute. The whole point here is to avoid the roadblocks. It's to actually use the time we've got together, use the experience that we've amassed so far, and we're early in this long journey of cloud, with the experience that you've got, and between ourselves, merge that and make it a very, very compelling story indeed, and avoid the roadblocks, and share the learnings, the experiences, good or bad, yeah? What works, what doesn't, what's hard, what's easy, experiences. So in terms of drivers and what's driving the adoption of cloud, and I'm thinking of this more in terms of driving the adoption of cloud with our clients, our customers, us as a complete community, not IBM helping you adopt cloud necessarily within your own environment, although that's just as relevant. Some of the conversations we've been hearing today have been around the technology drivers behind cloud. They're pretty well understood. Many of us have been on a virtualization journey for quite a while, but really where cloud really kicks in is as you move more into standardization, automation, shared resources, self-service, utility pricing, and those sorts of pick and mix type functionalities that I guess are the main things people think about when they talk about cloud. So those are the technological drivers behind this change. And I want to be quite provocative with those in a minute, but I'll come back to it. But you work up those steps, okay? And I think all of you in the room are completely committed to that. You get it. I'm not here to beat you over the head about it. That's just the nature of the beast. We've all gone through virtualization. We're moving up through standardization, vanilla type applications that have very little space for customization because that all generates cost and then heavy, expensive support. And the whole point of this is as light touch as we can make it, right? The ability to spin up new workloads really kicks in when you've got standardized images and ability to really make these things come alive. And when we've got that, which we've got, for example, at Wimbledon, which is in the next few weeks, we've just been demonstrating at Roland Garros in Paris, we can spin up workloads in production workloads, live workloads in sort of 3 minutes. So, it is as elastic as that kind of a construct. But what I want to talk about as well, because I think you guys get the technology one, certainly from the stuff I've heard today and some of the questions we've been hearing and some of the dialogues, the one-to-ones and stuff, is more the management issues, the management imperative, right? And this is the management within the customer or the client, depending on which way you call it, and what it is they're trying to do with cloud. And again, it was one of the panel type discussions, which is, what happens with all the IT folks? Are they all redundant? And I think the key thing here is, and it comes across in that white paper about the future of the IT department, is no, you don't need to, make them all redundant. It's not that kind of a scenario. It's actually quite the opposite. The IT department, the IT staff, the IT resources, the IT profession, as we're all in it, becomes even more front and center. It becomes even more critical. It's actually in the front of the plane along with the other guys who are driving the business, the CXOs, and not at the back of the plane keeping the lights on. Okay? So that's, maybe I'm being a bit provocative, but that's my sort of opening gambit. Does everybody get that? Does everybody agree with that as a statement, or am I sniffing something? Any comments? Anybody out there?
I agree with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First bid.
I heard it phrased that in the world of IT, the focus is moving away from the T and onto the I. So as the technology becomes more self-managing, more automated, there's much more focus upon the information and the value that you can drive from that information and the actionable outcomes that you can produce as a result of it.
Good. So it's putting the I back into the CIO and really emphasizing and underlining, emboldening it. So I think you're right. I think that's what, when clients get it, that's the way I think they're seeing it. Does anybody else agree with that? Or, yeah, some nods around the place? Good. So what I'm interested really is in, your points of view, trying to get a little bit of interaction as we go with this. So what are the barriers you're seeing to this adoption of cloud as we've been describing it today? We've talked a little bit in some of the panel sessions and some of the previous plenary sessions. Risk, control. Capability was a word Stephen Leonard mentioned a number of times in his dialogue. It's all to do with having the right kind of skills and not worrying so much about the physical IT within your four walls of your enterprise. That doesn't mean on-premise private clouds aren't important. I would argue they're very important, and there may even be workloads that, as clients, never migrate to cloud they stay as legacy applications. They may be, I don't know, green screen applications, stuff like that, but they never necessarily migrate. But it's really thinking about what other workloads do they have that can migrate. Email might be a classic. Anybody had any experience? I was talking to Vicenza earlier today. I don't think Steve's in the room, but we were talking about desktop management, things like that on the cloud. Anybody got any experience or any personal views on what capabilities are suitable to be migrated to cloud, or what would be the low-hanging fruit for what moves to cloud? Yes, sir, thank you. A bid from the front.
I guess I'm a little bit different to a lot of people here today, because what I've done over the last few years is create partner channels in the cloud. So I've been talking cloud about 4 years. When we've been first launching this, and I've launched it with some big international companies, we saw a lot of the early adoption or fears of adoption, and I think you've pretty much got all of those there, and it's the control and it's the risk. But there is always that low-hanging fruit. Now, email was one of those things that sort of flew off the shelves. I remember attending a Salesforce conference probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they were first talking cloud, but they were throwing lots of different names in the hat. So it was outsourcing again, grid computing, utility computing. And really, because those had all been used before, they went with the cloud piece. I think the one thing that you're missing there, if I was to be a little bit provocative, is education.
Right.
Now, I think what we've seen is everybody going cloud, cloud, cloud.
Yep.
Now, from my view of it, the cloud, to be perfectly clear, is the network.
Yep.
That is the cloud. What you then put in the cloud are cloud services, which is the ARS, I was going to say, but the AAS. I think the biggest thing is the security piece. So my view was always around, rather than having to take people by a hand and lead them down a path and trying to convince them that what we're doing is correct, and it's all about trust. One of the easiest things you can do in the cloud environment is to actually let the customer still control that security, but it removes them having to have it on premise. Stuff around the control and everything, I think we're taking too many steps for a lot of partners and a lot of customers to take on board at once.
Yep.
So my view would be to educate them, really explain to them what cloud is, because I did a show a few months ago and I said to everybody that was coming past the stand, what is cloud to you? And 9 out of 10 of them would still say VMware. Yeah. Rather than any other part of it.
Yeah.
And that was a direct from the end users. That's what they believe it is. It's virtualization and nothing else.
Yeah.
So I went through an educational piece with them, only like a couple of minutes, and then they kind of bought into it a little bit more. And sometimes cloud is still a hand grenade that you're throwing into a room, and it's creating angst, and it's creating pain, and it's confusion. And it's only through education that you can really remove that. But then also saying, well, you know what? Rather than having if you're happy with your Cisco firewall on premise and how you've got that set up, why don't you copy the protocols and that you've got on premise to the hosted version or the cloud version? Why don't you still manage that and work with a provider that will allow you to do that? And then when you've got trust in that provider, allow them to take over. And I know one of the guys said on the stage, I think it might have been Stephen, that was saying, you will give them better firewalls than they've got on site. It's nothing to do with the quality of the equipment. It's to do with the people looking after it and how that is then maintained and monitored. It's nothing to do with the quality of that equipment that you're selling them at a more affordable monthly rate. Yeah. So it's about giving them the chance to gain that trust. So I think that would be the piece that I would say is really missing. Education.
I think you're absolutely right. So thank you very much for that. Oh, sorry. And I think that education is a constant drumbeat. Even in IBM, colleagues of mine around the room will appreciate this. We're constantly having to maintain that drumbeat. There's always some new news coming out around cloud, but we still have to keep coming back to these basics. And I think a lot of the horror stories that we've seen and heard publicised as well have really been because some of those fairly standard IT processes, procedures, due diligences, governances, however you want to call it, have been missed. Yeah. So it's really been, ITIL, for example. People have just assumed that somebody else was actually managing that. And there's certain IT services, and this goes back to the future of the IT department. There's certain things within the IT department you do not give up, right? So And things like security might be done slightly differently in the cloud, right? But you need to still take control of it, and you need to make sure it's contracted into whatever agreements and arrangements you have. So I think you're absolutely spot on. So thank you for that. Any other barriers that again we could perhaps help you with in terms of that dialogue? Because one of the things that we can offer, as I said, is security consulting, security services. We've got two really brilliant guys who I lean on a lot in the UK, Martin Borrett and Nick Coleman, who are global kind of guys, but they're based out of the UK. And I'd be more than willing to, ask them to help you in any of those discussions, dialogues you might be having with your clients. And as Stephen Leonard was suggesting, I mean, we look after clients that have really significant security concerns, as well as mainstream clients. So, it's important we get the balance right and do what's fit for purpose. So Nick used to be looking after security for the Cabinet Office. He was the author of the Coleman Report, if any of you have picked it up off the internet. So, these are really good, capable guys. They're very busy. I'm not saying they're going to be readily available to you, but we could make those available to you for some of those dialogues if that helps. But education is a constant drumbeat. If we go on to the, let's start looking at the positive side, because we're sort of more approaching the networking and the drinks part of the afternoon or the evening. There's some wow factors as well that I think we really ought to make sure we communicate effectively to those end clients, right? And the wow factors aren't instead of those barriers. It's just there's a carrot as well as a stick, if you like. So things like cost, really important to people, especially in the current economic climate. But I would ask or suggest to you that you don't lead on cost when you're selling your cloud capabilities to your end clients, that cost isn't something that you major on particularly. And I'll come on to why I think that. Speed is an absolute winner. It's the agility and the ability for your clients to be able to do stuff at the speed of cloud. Right, compared with the historical landscape, which might have been, you want to do what? Well, we'll have to put that out to tender. It's going to be 3 months before we get the kit in, and then we've got to do all the patch management, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. It's not quite as slow as that now. You could use some cloud capabilities with the right kind of measures attached to them, IT governance attached to them, and do things much more rapidly. And because of that, and because the cost is significantly lower, which is a positive, it means you can do many, many more things. And then ultimately, from that test and dev environment, which is really suitable on the cloud, you can migrate the winner, if you like, back into your production type cloud environments and make sure it happens. That's, again, one of the things we've learned through our experience on Wimbledon and looking after the tennis Grand Slams, is being able to do things so much more rapidly than we would have done maybe 3 years ago. So, whereas before with Roland Garros or Melbourne or Flushing Meadows in the US or Wimbledon, it used to take almost 15 months to bring a new app or a new piece of functionality forwards. Now we're able to do it at the previous event. So we're doing stuff, we've just been doing stuff with Roland Garros, we'll be launching at Wimbledon this year, for example. So much more rapid. And if you think about it, with the advocacy, the advent, of things like tablet devices and the fact that OSs are changing all of the time, you need to stay pretty current. And it's a pretty dynamic, pretty punishing environment if you're not up to the minute. So it's that speed that's key, I think. Simplicity is another one. This is IBM. We over-engineer everything. But I would argue that keeping it simple, working with the business users and understanding the business needs is really pivotal to cloud. I don't know whether any of you have had that experience as well. You're not necessarily just interlocking to the IT departments that you may have been to date. It may be an older BPO type role, but as a managed service provider, you've got the opportunity of talking to other C-suites. Has anybody had experience of that outside of the CIO's office? No? The CMO? Anybody been talking to the CMOs? Okay. That's another area that comes up as a blocker when I've been talking to the ecosystem. It's we don't feel confident, we don't feel comfortable, we don't feel it's in our natural skill set. That's again where IBM can help you. You know, we've got a huge consulting practice, they've got years and man-years of industry experience that we can sit beside you in those dialogues to help you get over some of those concerns that you may have. Build on that customer expectation, the business outcome, the real carrot that's dangling at the end of this migration to cloud, in addition to the agility and the cost savings. Okay? So this is a really simple model. If there's one thing I would love for you to take away from this session today, it's think about these three ripples coming off of the pool. I think a lot of the conversation today, a lot of the conversation I've heard today, a lot of the conversation I've had today and historically with the ecosystem partners has been really thinking about it as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and it's really talking about infrastructure. It's talking about, you know, we can do colo, we can do hosting, we can do all of this stuff. What I would like for you to do is to earn the right, earn the trust and the respect with your clients, your customers, to be a little bit more ambitious, to talk to them about some of the bigger pictures, some of the more exciting stuff that were on those wow factors that they could excite the client about. It doesn't mean that we don't start with email or start with desktop or something that you guys are really comfortable and confident with, but let's set the bar a little bit higher in terms of the ambitions that the client may have or should have above the cost takeout. So optimization, I don't think in the current environment is enough. I don't think it's ambitious enough. I think it just becomes, it commoditizes everything that we all stand for. What we need to do is to stretch above that and think more into the, how can we use cloud to innovate? How can you break into new turf, new territories, offer new solutions, Mr. Client, and do it pretty quickly with the agility of cloud that gets you quick market share, gets you quick return on investment? That's what's going to excite them, and that's what's going to do, you know, in test and dev environment, that's what's going to get them hooked on cloud from a business point of view, and therefore drag in the IT department. That would be one of my suggestions. The other idea is to do something completely disruptive, which is to maybe invent a whole new market, a whole new landscape. One of the things that we've been working on with Cable and Wireless, for example, is in the smart energy cloud. It's a completely new area. Yeah? Been chatting to partners today who sort of say, you know, I was listening to the segmentation stuff today. We don't kind of fit in any segment. We kind of straddle this, or we do a bit of this, a bit of that. That's brilliant. That's disruptive. That's what this is all about. It's not conforming. It's doing something slightly different to the norm, right? So, for example, if you're, one example I cite a lot is civil engineering. You're a big civil engineering company. You're working for a big capital project, hopefully, when the money comes out. Yeah? You want to bid it. You can't afford to bid the whole thing because you bet the whole house on one deal. So what you do is you team with another, kind of teaming with the enemy, really, something IBM's very familiar doing. You collaborate, but you collaborate on the cloud because you don't need to necessarily put any real IT, physical infrastructure commitment into the cloud. The other party doesn't. Between the two of you, you spin up this virtualized cloud environment, and that's what you run your joint project, your JV on, right? Doesn't mean you can't do it. It actually means you can do many, 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 many more of those kind of exciting, innovative, disruptive plays without necessarily upsetting your traditional historical business flow, right? Think about some case studies, people who've done this before, people who are willing to share their experience with you. This client here is IBM. We will be very, very happy to open kimono with you as our ecosystem, because you are our extended family, to share with you some of the experiences that we have had in our own journey to cloud. Yeah? How we have used test and dev, how we have used collaboration. It's been a phenomenal eye-opener to IBM. We have saved something like 90% of our costs from a test and dev environment by moving to cloud. So please do use those kind of, it's one of the things, working with IBM, we will help you with loads of experience and evidence to be able to go into those client examples that you have, your pipeline, and share with them the art of the possible. And we've got experts within IBM who will come and talk to the client with you to say, this is what you can do. Okay? I'm conscious we're coming to the end of the time, but has that been kind of helpful in terms of just maybe changing the dimensions a little bit? I would ask that you just think about it a little bit more ambitious, Be a bit daring. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. We were talking about women in IT. I don't think Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady, was in IT as such. I mean, she'd be pretty good, actually. But she's got a famous statement, which was, do something scary every day. Do something scary every day, but use the comfort blanket that is IBM maybe to help you do it, or those other case studies, Wimbledon or any other ones that we've got in a massive armory of case studies that help you make your point, help you justify that business scenario that you're sitting opposite with your client. And me and my team would be more than happy to engage with you. Yeah, that's my commitment to you. I haven't had many offerings of business cards yet for my white papers, so I've still got all of that to come. But please do, think of us as part of your sales force, part of your arsenal. And between us, we can do some really, really exciting stuff. And then maybe the next time we have one of these events, you and I are standing on this stage talking about, bloody hell, do you remember we did that? And we got this benefit within 3 months? It just blew the socks off the client. That's what I would love to be able to do with you this time next year, or whenever Jen and the team create the next MSP event. Thank you very much. Look forward to working with you.